And did you hear about this story? A small plane carrying 5 people crashes into the middle of a retirement community in Pennsylvania. Just take a look at this aftermath here. All this charred debris, that charred plane, burned up cars in the parking lot. Authorities say the plane skid for almost 100 feet before it came to a stop. And we actually have the audio of what happened just minutes before that crash happened, when the pilot alerts air traffic control of needing to make that emergency landing because a door was open. Take a listen.
Tower, Bonanza 347 Mike has an open door. We need to return for a landing.
Bonanza 347 Mike. Pull up.
Rescue 1, Lancaster Tower. The aircraft is down out just behind the terminal on the parking lot street area.
Yeah, so those 5 passengers on board were taken to area hospitals. Their conditions are unknown at this time, but first responders say nobody on the ground was hurt, which is a miracle in and of itself. The FAA and the NTSB are now investigating. Joining me now is NewsNation travel editor Peter Greenberg. Peter, good morning to you. You hear that radio correspondence and you just think to yourself, how in the world did a door open mid-flight? Have you heard of this before?
Oh, it happens all the time. You got to latch it properly. But keep in mind, this plane never got higher than 500 feet. So when the pilot reported the door open and requested to return to the airport, he didn't have a lot of altitude to play with. And what investigators are looking at now is his angle of turn to get back and, of course, his rate of descent. You heard on the mic audio, the controller on the ground, or actually the tower folks, telling the pilot to pull up so they could see. It was a clear day, visibility was 20/20. They could clearly see that maybe when he made that turn, he could have gone into a stall, and that may have contributed to what happened.
Yeah, and you talk about, you can hear ATC telling the pilot, hey, pull up, as it was attempting to land. Talk about the pressure difference at 500 feet between the cabin, outside air, and how difficult it would be to control a plane with a door that's blown wide open.
Well, it may have less to do with the door or the altitude than what the pilot did in terms of making and executing that turn. Because at that altitude, every time you make a turn, you lose speed and you lose altitude. And he didn't have a lot of altitude to play with.
Yeah. What are your big questions right now? Like, if you got to be kind of at the helm of this investigation or involved, what are you most curious about right now, Peter?
Well, remember, in any investigation, you've got to rule everything out before you can rule any one thing in. You can rule out weather. You can rule out wind at this point. You can rule out the airport itself. Right at this point, they're looking at how quickly he reacted, how fast he made that turn, and did that turn and the angle of the turn, did that contribute to a stall that gave him no play in terms of his altitude, and down he went.
You and I have been on air so many times this year talking about just the string of plane crashes that we've seen across the country. Is this the lowest that you've seen the state of aviation in a while, Peter?
Not at all. I got to put this in perspective, Markie. If you take a look at the number of incidents this year versus previous years, they're not increased. What we're seeing now is everybody's got a cell phone camera. Everybody's a citizen journalist. There are cameras everywhere, as we saw it happen even in the midair collision at Reagan. There were cameras looking at these planes from different angles, even at night. So we're seeing it reported more often, but the actual incidents, not higher at all.
What other aviation stories are on your radar this week?
Well, going back to the FAA, we've got to get them up to speed in terms of their staffing, in terms of their inspection possibilities, and in terms of their oversight of both the maintenance, the manufacturing, and the operations of airlines. Right now, Congress is still looking at that, but it should be a no-brainer. That's where the problems are.
Yeah, we've been watching that one closely, too. I got to end it there, but where in the world is Peter Greenberg today, my friend?
I won't make you too jealous. I'm in New York.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.